As the name suggests, Ohoopee Match Club was designed with match play, not stroke play in mind. The idea came from club founder Michael Walrath, a New York entrepreneur who wanted a place where he and his buddies could play matches with little regard for total score. My design partner, Jim Wagner, and I were intrigued by the idea. It was a liberating concept and set us on a different mindset, allowing us to design mostly heroic architecture with bigger risks and bigger rewards than usual. Since we weren't restricted in any way, we could build wide corridors that pose different angles and different ways to play each hole. We'd provide both conservative and bold routes, so if you're up in your match, you can play it cautiously, but if you're down, you could take on a big risk to get back in the game. It also allowed us to build some greens that we wouldn't normally build. We focused on the concept of greens within a green, multiple targets with multiple sections that reward aggressive approach shots. The location of the course in the sandy soil of central Georgia was essential to what we wanted to do, which was a bouncy, rolling course where you can run a ball into a green or use the ground for recovery shots. The sandy landscape also provided us with a special aesthetic, green grass contrasted by native stretches of sand, brush, and bush. This is Every Hole at Ohoopee Match Club. The opening par 4 plays along a shelf, well removed from the only lake on the property. It's a good getaway hole, a nice sweeping fairway with the second shot downhill about 20 feet. You can bounce it on, but the approach is pinched by sandy wasteland short left and tight right. The green provides a glimpse of what's to come as it flows from front to back and is intersected by several lateral ridges. The hole offers different options and different ways to play each shot. Note, there is no rough with only one height of cut everywhere except the greens, which are a bit lower. The 547-yard second is a 3-shot hole that's listed as a par 4.5 on the scorecard. The half-par concept is another unique feature of Ohoopee. With the prevailing wind from behind, many will be able to reach the green in 2, but when the wind is in your face, a 5 might just win the hole. Hence the idea of a par 4.5. We stuck the green out on a peninsula, but gave you a wide runway to the right to feed the ball down towards the putting surface. If you're going for it in 2, you'll need to turn it right to left, but pull it a bit too much and you're in the water. Then your opponent, who's laid up, is now in the driver's seat. 2 is one of the first greens we built, and we just nestled it into the natural slope and let it flow down towards the lake's edge. At 659 yards, the third is a true 3-shot hole, especially into the wind. If you can bite off the bunker on the inside corner, you shorten the hole dramatically. Even more critical is avoiding the huge center bunker about 135 yards from the green. You can lay up short of it, or play left or right of it, any of which leaves you in a position to see the flag, but not the putting surface. As the green runs away from you, you really want to see the green for your third. So the bold approach is to carry the center bunker in 2, clearing the ridge and hitting a downslope where you can see and feel everything for your third. If you don't hold the green on the next shot, you'll face one of the hardest recovery shots on the course. Since the Ohoopee River can flood into this area, we move the most earth on the 4th to raise the hole above flood stage. This short par 4 has different angles that provide multiple ways to play the hole. The more aggressive the line, the more heavily guarded it is. The wide shallow green is really hard to hit, especially the right side. There are humps just short of the green and a big knob in the right front that must be navigated. A testy shot even when you've got a wedge in your hand. The more you play this hole, the more you learn you should drive way over to the left side so you can play down the throat of the green instead of coming across those mounds. Jim built this green, which is probably why it's so hard. The first 1-shot hole in the match is probably the most fun tee shot on the course. Playing over sand scars, to some it brings to mind Pine Valley or Jupiter Hills, although we had Royal Melbourne's bunkering in mind. The green is very deep, and a front bunker eats into its center, forming left and right forward pin positions, the right one being very narrow. Our intention is that a pin placed on that little right side tongue should be used only when playing from an up tee, something around 105 to 110 yards. You've either got to hit a perfect aerial shot in there or play away from the flag. If you end up on the wrong side, you'll have to putt around the bunker, but the green is contoured to do so. At 525 yards, this is another par 4.5, with a blind tee shot that better be good, because it's a long hole that turns left about 275 yards from the regular tees. People tend to play farther left than they should, and you can get into trouble over there. You want to play up the center right. From there, the ground funnels down toward the green. We put a bunker 50 yards short right that if you carry, you'll get a big kick onto the green. The putting surface has a center swale and a back plateau that's a little homage to some of the Donald Ross greens we've seen over the years. This can be a great equalizer in a match play situation because not everybody will be on this green in 2. Technically, the 7th is the 4th 3-shot hole amongst the first 7. That's a reflection of the freedom Jim and I felt in designing for match play. The tee shot has a lot more room to the right than you think. The second shot is probably the most difficult shot at Ohoopee. If you can't get home, you've got to choose to stay short of all those bunkers on the right or try to hit it atop a fairway ridge that kicks in funny directions. If you bounce left, you've got that tree overhanging to contend with on your 3rd. 7 is the only green on the course that Jim and I collaborated shaping on. I roughed it in, Jim finished it, along with the bunkering, which is some of the best work I've seen Jim do. It's beautiful how it all ties together. We built this par 3 because there's a wetland we had to get across. Once we cleared out the trees, we discovered a sharp upslope, which gave us an opportunity to do something a little different. We put in a big sand feature off the tee that's not really in play, just a distraction, and then this little pop bunker that's really the hazard in play. It's a little removed from the green because golfers will be running the ball into the green. We figured, on the tee, players should be thinking about the huge sandscape and forget all about that little pot, and then they'll hit it in there and think, what just happened? It's a tough shot to reach the green from that pop bunker. The green itself is deep, with everything falling to the front left. This short 4 looks so narrow off the tee, mainly because we purposely obscured the left side of the fairway. That's because this is one of our greens within a green. If the pin is anywhere center or right, the left side is the place to be for your second shot. This is a short enough par 4 that a lot of players will try to drive the green by hitting over the bunkers down the right and using a slope to run onto the putting surface. Those bunkers catch a ton of shots. You've also got to contend with that little pop bunker that eats into the front of the green. Any drive short of it leaves a little twitchy second shot, especially when the pin is anywhere behind it. There are all kinds of ways to play the 9th, which makes it a really fun hole in our opinion. Ten is a beautiful par 4 that begins in an enchanted forest of oaks, then crests a hill and offers a vast view of the grass savanna beyond the green. This is one of those spots in match play where you can experience a big swing of emotion. Say you hit your tee shot into the trees. The stroke-saving approach would be to pitch out and try and get it up and down, scoring at worst a bogey. But match play is the game here. Your opponent in the fairway thinks he's got the advantage, but then you hit something low out of the trees and sneak it up on the green. It's worth the risk because at worst, you'll simply lose the hole, not a bunch of strokes. One critic told me the green looks like a rumpled blanket that's been unfurled onto the ground, which I think is a really nice description. It's wide open in front, so you can run a ball in there. Early in the design process, we talked about a shorter option for players who desired a second match on the same day, but something a bit less strenuous. So we developed 4 additional holes at the far northwest corner of the property. Coupled with some alternate tees on other holes, it constitutes an afternoon loop we call the whiskey routing. After the first hole, players skip 2 through 5, play the 6th from a far shorter tee, and then 7 through 10. Then come the 4 alternate holes, a short par 5, a short par 4, and 2 consecutive par 3s. That brings us back to the 11th, which is played as a drivable par 4 from a tee near Hell's Half Acre. The long par 3 13th plays as a short par 4. The par 4 14th becomes a 190-yard par 3, and the long 15th plays as a drive and pitch par 4. The whiskey routing is 5,610 yards, par 69, compared to the main course at 7,325 yards, par 72. In keeping with one of our design themes, the whiskey routing is a course within a course. There's no question we had Pine Valley in the back of our minds when designing Ohoopee. And we admit that the big cross bunker on the 11th is a copy of Hell's Half Acre at Pine Valley's 7th hole. We felt this was a great place for it. You've got to hit a really good tee shot to be able to get up and over the chasm on your second. The uphill nature of the perched fairway means you can't see what's going on beyond Hell's Half Acre. And that adds a little fear to the second shot. You not only have to make the carry, but you also have to get the line right. The green site was also inspired by Pine Valley's 7th, particularly the right side shelf and the slope running toward the front left. 12 is the big par 4.5 on the back nine. With an S-shaped fairway, the green is reachable in two if you can stay short of the sand on the right, and then carry the sand dune feature that Jim created short right of the green. The better play is to hit it down the left and avoid all the trouble on the right. But it's counterintuitive to think that way on the tee. You think, the hole turns right, I've got to play down the inside of the dogleg. This was a green that got Jim excited. He had the cool idea of opening the approach to the green from the right, but pinching it off from the left, using 3 little bunkers set at a diagonal. He shaped it to provide the option of feeding it down a slope from the right after carrying the dunes complex. Long par 3s are hard to design. How do you design a meaningful challenge when you already know it's going to be a difficult hole just because of its length? I really think 13 may be one of the best long par 3s we've ever built. The landforms lent themselves to our concept, a semi-Biarritz green with a front bowl. When I shaped it, I didn't start out with the Biarritz as the concept, but as it kept evolving, I thought, wow, what if we put the valley in front and not have a front plateau or anything even resembling a front plateau, regardless if it was green or approach fairway? Just have a sharp upslope. It's become a fun hole, given how you play it, based on where the hole location is. People always get excited when they step onto the tee and see the flag is in the front bowl. This is the lone par 3.5 at Ohoopee. 100% of the green was inspired by 2 Tillinghast courses. The slopes and banks found at Winged Foot, combined with the long, narrow aspect of the 15th green at Fenway Golf Club. We chose to build the deepest bunker on the course to the right side, so you play left to totally avoid having to skirt that bunker with your second. But the shot coming in from the left side, over the ridge and mounds, is really tricky. The whole location on the back upper tier was the only place where we had to come back to make an alteration. Even a tour pro couldn't hold it with a wedge. So we came back and raised the back edge up a little. It's still a tough shot, and if you go over this green, you'll probably end up conceding the hole. Standing on the 15th tee, you don't realize how far right you can hit your drive, but you can hit it over the prominent oak on the right and still be okay. In fact, that's the best line. From the beginning, I loved that tree, and Jim wanted to take it down, but I insisted we can always take it down later. A week before we opened, a storm snapped off the left half of the tree. A divine compromise, right? The hole tends to reward a cut off the tee and a draw into the green, but we thought we'd turn the strategy dial up to 11 by making the angle of the green super tough from the left side. If you hit a straight tee shot or pull it left off the tee, it's very difficult to hit and hold the green because of the turn and tilt of the putting surface. We love the idea of birdies winning holes at the end of a match rather than double bogeys losing them. So 16 is the shortest hole on the golf course and perhaps the easiest. A short iron shot for everyone. The diagonal green is very narrow at front left and very wide in back right, another greens within a green complex. The tendency is to play to the fat part of the green, but given the various shelves and bowls, you may then struggle to two-putt. Positioned on a knob, the green affords one last look out over the grass savanna before you turn for home. 17 is one of the prettiest holes we've ever built. Everything was there, including the sandy expanse, but this hole has changed more than any hole on the property. Originally it was going to play much farther to the right, but Jim felt the hole was going to look too much like the 9th. So we shifted the fairway to the left of the sandy waste and positioned the green beyond the sand. If you drive over all the sand down the right side, you'll be on a plateau looking down into the green at a perfect angle. If you decide not to try the heroic tee shot, there's no harm hitting it left if you avoid the oak tree, because you'll still have just a short iron into the green, just with less visibility. The decision off the tee will probably depend on where you stand in your match, or your press, at this late stage. It's the home hole, so we figure if a match reaches 18, let the players just rip it. It's amazing how many balls end up in the trees or in the native on the right when there is so much room to the left, which provides the better angle. But that's what can happen when players try to bomb away. The green is very interesting. From the fairway, you can't see the back section of it, just the top half of the flag. You know you can't land it back there because it will skip over. The more you get to know the green, the more it will dictate what you do off the tee. When you walk up the slope onto the green, the lake behind comes into view. What a beautiful way to finish. Everyone involved in the creation of Ohoopee has been pleased with the critical acclaim it's been given. The recognition by Golf Digest is particularly satisfying. Ohoopee was named Golf Digest's Best New Private Course of 2019 and is currently ranked number 34 on Digest's newest list of America's 100 greatest golf courses. We like to think such honors pay tribute to not just the unusual course design, but also the basic concept of the club, one dedicated to match play in all its aspects. The gamesmanship, the bragging rights, the camaraderie. It's a philosophy best reflected in the club's slogan, "Nobody cares what you shot."